Do you know what the number one cause of death among teenagers in Canada is? It is car crashes. According to British Columbia Automobile Association, 15 to 17-year-old drivers put their lives in danger whenever they get behind the wheel of a car, and they also put the lives of other road users at risk. Good afternoon, Madam Moderator, honorable judges, my worthy opponent, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Daniel Lee, and today my colleague James and I will explain why the minimum driving age in all Canadian provinces should be raised to 18. First, Madam Moderator, because studies repeatedly show that teenage drivers have more accidents than older drivers and are, according to Transport Canada, 7 times more likely to be killed in car crash than the general driving population. We, the Affirmative team, believe that it is time for all provincial governments in Canada to raise the driving age. Raising the driving age to 18 will reduce the number of accidents and fatalities on the roads. Second, Madam Moderator, raising the driving age will mean that there will be fewer cars on our roads. Besides, reducing the number of car crashes and deaths caused by crashes, raising the driving age will benefit society in other important ways. It'll, for example, reduce traffic congestion and help to make driving a more pleasant experience. And it'll help to decrease pollution caused by cars and thereby help to save the environment. Lastly, Madam Moderator, driving is serious business, and because poor or reckless driving by 15, 16, and 17-year-olds can have such devastating results, we, the Affirmative team, believe that every province in Canada should make driving an adult privilege. Although some teenagers may complain that raising the driving age to 18 is unfair, this proposal is about safety. Before closing, Madam Moderator, I'll go over the points that I raised to explain why raising the driving age is necessary. First, teenage drivers under the age of 18 have far more accidents than older drivers. Second, preventing 15, 16, 17-year-olds from legally driving will lead to fewer vehicles on our roads, less traffic congestion, and less pollution. And finally, driving is serious business and by law become a privilege for adults. This resolution must therefore stand. Thank you.
Good afternoon, honorable judges, teachers, my worthy opponents, and ladies and gentlemen. Today, representing the negative side in this debate, I will argue that the minimum driving age in all Canadian provinces should not be raised to 18. But before going any farther, I will do my rebuttal. My opponent said that when teenagers drive, they put their lives in danger and the life of everybody else on the road. However, I say that not all teenagers are bad drivers. In fact, most teenagers are safe and careful drivers. My opponent said that driving should become an adult privilege, but I say that this will hurt teenagers because it will cause them to lose valuable opportunities to get and keep jobs, to make money, and to become more responsible as well as more independent. I will now continue with my constructive speech. First, Madam Moderator, I do acknowledge that drivers under the age of 18 do have more accidents than older drivers. But I say that this is not because of their age. It is because they are not very experienced at driving. And if the driving age were raised to 18, the new 18-year-olds drivers would likely have more accidents than older drivers, as they would lack experience at driving. Clearly, the solution to this problem is not to raise the minimum driving age, but to educate the new drivers better and ensure that they have a lot of supervised driving experience before they are given a full license to drive unsupervised. Second, Madam Moderator, in our modern society, driving is very important. The right to drive should be a right that people gain in their mid-teens. Most 16 and 17-year-olds Canadians need to drive to get to school or work. Many live in areas with few buses or trains, and it is unreasonable to expect parents to drive them around all the time. Raising the driving age to 18 will hurt teenagers because it will cause them to lose valuable opportunities to get and keep jobs, to make money, and to become more responsible as well as more independent. Lastly, Madam Moderator, I would be remiss if I did not mention that most teenagers are safe and careful drivers. It would be absolutely unfair to punish all 16 and 17-year-olds for their dangerous behavior of a few of their peers. Instead of raising the driving age, a much fairer and much better solution to the problem of unsafe driving by some teenagers would be to make driving much tougher and to require retests and retraining for any new drivers caught driving badly. Parents could also be made to share some of the responsibility. For example, before getting a learner's license, 16 and 17-year-olds, or in the case of Alberta, 15-year-olds, could be required to produce written proof that their parents believed they were mature enough to learn to drive. Before closing, Madam Moderator, I would like to repeat my points. I argued that the minimum driving age in all Canadian provinces should not be raised because it is inexperience and not age that is the main cause of the car accidents involving teenagers under the age of 18. I also explained that young people should be allowed to learn to drive in their mid-teens, as it will help them to become more independent. And finally, I pointed out that most teens are careful and safe drivers, and that it would be unfair to punish all 16 and 17-year-olds for the unsafe behavior of some of their peers. As the National Youth Rights Association rightly says, raising the driving age will just create inexperienced, accident-prone drivers at 18 instead of 16. This resolution must therefore fall. Thank you.
On June 17, 2015, a 16-year-old teenage girl was speeding on a road north of Kingston, Ontario. She was breaking the law not only by speeding but also by driving without an adult. The young girl lost control of her vehicle, which plunged into the ditch, hit a stone wall, and rolled. The tragic accident left two of her passengers, a 16-year-old boy and 16-year-old girl, dead, and a 17-year-old boy in intensive care with life-threatening injuries. Good afternoon, Madam Moderator, honorable judges, my worthy opponent, and ladies and gentlemen. Representing the affirmative side in this debate, I will argue that the horrific fatal accidents like the one near Kingston, Ontario, were preventable, and this is why I so strongly support the raising the minimum driving age to 18 in all Canadian provinces. But before continuing my speech, I will do my rebuttal. First, my opponent said the reason why teenage drivers have bad accidents is because they had less experience. But I say that is not the reason. It is because they are not responsible and mature enough to drive. Second, my opponent said teenagers need a driver's license because they must go to their work or school. But I say that as long as they have strength and legs, they can walk or ride a bike. My opponent also said that raising the driving age is unfair to teenagers who did not do anything wrong, but I say it's too bad for them. The bottom line is that when we look at the research, raising the driving age saves lives. So I think they should get the same consequences. I will now continue with my constructive speech. First, Madam Moderator, studies have shown that teenage drivers under the 18 are particularly dangerous, so raising the minimum age to get a driver's license will save lives and make our roads much safer. These young drivers, especially boys, tend to have a very different attitude to driving compared to the older drivers. They have less fear than older drivers and a much greater desire for excitement and thrills. They always seem to want to drive fast and to be admired by their peers for their ability to drive fast, so they drive over the speed limit, sometimes way over. Unfortunately, this reckless driving often causes loss of control of the vehicle and tragic accidents. Second, Madam Moderator, in all Canadian provinces, people under the age of 18 are not legally allowed to vote, drink alcohol, or smoke as they are not considered old enough or responsible enough to do these things. Yet, across Canada, teenagers as young as 15 in the case of Alberta and 16 in the other provinces are legally permitted to get a driver's license. These young people who cannot legally vote, drink, or smoke are thought mature enough to drive cars, even though cars can be very dangerous. This is unreasonable. In fact, this is outrageous. Most countries regard 18 as the age when young people become adults. As my colleague Mr. Lee said, that driving should be the privilege of adulthood and should not be allowed until the age of 18 is reached. Before closing, Madam Moderator, I would like to repeat my reasons for supporting the resolution. First, I argue that in all Canadian provinces, the minimum age should be raised in order to save lives and make our roads much safer. I also provide strong evidence that proves that most teenagers under 18 are simply not responsible enough to drive. As Adrian Lund said, the bottom line is that when we look at the research, raising the driving age saves lives. For these reasons, Madam Moderator, the resolution must, therefore, stand. Thank you.
Madam Moderator, I will now begin my rebuttal. My opponent said that raising the driving age will save lives. But I say that what will save life is to make driving tests tougher and to require retests and retraining for any new drivers caught driving badly. Parents could also made to share some of the responsibility. My opponent said that accidents caused by teenagers under 18 were preventable, so he said that the driving age should be raised. I agree that most of these accidents were preventable, but the solution is not to raise the driving age, but to educate new drivers better and ensure that they have a lot of unsupervised driving experience before they are given a full license to drive unsupervised. Thank you.
Madam Moderator, I will now start my rebuttal. The reason why teenagers under 18 have more accidents than older drivers is not age, but because they do not have enough driving experience. However, I say that is why teenage drivers under 18 should have more practice driving with a supervisor before they get a license to drive at 18. Secondly, my opponent said if teenagers under 18 cannot drive, they would lose valuable opportunities to get and keep jobs. However, I say that is not true. They could walk, use the bus, ride a bike, or ask any adult relative that has a license to drive them to work. Finally, my opponent said most teenage drivers are safe drivers. The key word is most. This means my opponent agrees that some teenagers under 18 are dangerous drivers, and those drivers are making these accidents. Thank you.